Hello and welcome to this presentation. My name is Arti Agrawal and I'm the Director for Women in Engineering and IT at the University of Technology, Sydney. I'm also an Associate Professor in the School of Data and Electrical Engineering. In today's talk, I'm going to be discussing the role of social networks and community in STEM organizations. But before I begin my talk, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands upon which UTS stands, that is, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. They are the traditional custodians of knowledge for these places, and I would like to pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. A little bit about myself. I've been working in electrical engineering for the last 15 years, and I'm a senior member of the IEEE. My research interests are in computational electromagnetics and photonics. I've been involved with the IEEE Photonics Society for a very long time, since I was a PhD student. And it's been a great pleasure for me to work with them on creating positive change in our community. And currently, I'm the Associate Vice President for Diversity for the Photonics Society. In this presentation today, what you will hear about is the need for community in STEM organizations. What community might look like for different individuals from diverse backgrounds. And then I will be talking about how to build an engaged community and share with you some best practice examples from the community that we have built. Throughout this presentation, you will be hearing videos from members of our community. As you know, STEM organizations can vary in scope and size, from a startup in someone's garage, to a multinational company with cutting-edge labs, to a government lab carrying out defense research, to a niche engineering firm, or even to a university like UTS giving technical education. What's common to all of these organizations is the desire to get the best possible talent and to nurture it so that it flourishes and makes the organization grow and perform better. That's where diversity becomes important, and everyone is looking for the best possible talent. Yet we find that STEM organizations do not have the best diversity. Taking gender as an example, we find that the gender balance is less than desirable, particularly in leadership. And gender is not the only characteristic. Other characteristics, such as ethnicity, religion, disability, sexual orientation, and culturally diverse people, we find that few of them are represented in leadership, and the diversity at all levels of the organization is not very, very good. How can we change this? HR policies, rules and regulations, legislation from the governments, and industry best practice. All of these things are aimed at trying to increase the diversity and to improve the situation. Yet they don't hit at the very heart of the problem, which is the culture of the organization. Let's try to unpack this a little bit. What does the culture of the organization have to do with the performance of people who are working there, or they're being flourishing, or they're doing well in the organization? You will next hear from Alicia and Sahar about the impact of community on the organization and on an individual.
My name's Alicia Pearce and I run the Athena Swan program at UTS. And today I'm working at home with my 7-year-old colleague.
Hello.
I would describe the women in engineering and IT community as vibrant, fun, and deliberate. And I think that you can't overemphasize how important the deliberate nature of it is in its success. I think it's important to have these spaces because part of my role at UTS is to run a program that supports UTS to recruit and retain women in larger numbers in STEM disciplines. And without a deliberate building of spaces to support a culture that makes people feel welcome and like they have friends, my work would not be supported.
My name is Sahar and I'm an international PhD student at UTS. Women in engineering and IT community for me is a safe and friendly place where I can share my life and PhD experiences with other females who are in the same journey as I am. I think what differentiates this community is supporting through actions, not only by words. They offer different programs and workshops to guide us to be a more professional, more confident, and happier individuals. the ones who know how to promote themselves in a competitive environment.
Taking gender as an example, if I summarize a few points from that lens, there is a sense of isolation at being the only woman in the organization. And you feel like I'm the only person, I'm the only woman, I'm the only female, or I'm the only minority person, the only gay person, the only African American person. This can be quite isolating and lonely. It can also lead to an imposter syndrome, where the person feels like they don't fit, that they don't belong, this is not the right place for them, and they're not the right person for this place. It also means that this person can often feel a sense of extreme pressure, that they have to be perfect, that they can't afford to fail. Because if they fail, they were letting down the entire team. They were letting down all women, or they were letting down all African American people. And this can be very bad for their mental well being and their work performance because they can feel so much pressure at all times. For people who are from a minority group, where they don't look or are culturally different from others at work, they can often feel that they can't bring their whole self to work. They can't be authentic at work because their culture or aspects of themselves cannot be appreciated or will not be understood at work. So they try and compartmentalize and keep these things outside of work. People also do not see role models who look like themselves at work. So they may not see women in senior leadership positions, or they may not see senior Muslim people in the leadership. And this can often make them feel that they will not or cannot also rise in the ranks. And it can be something that puts them off working in that organization or limits their own aspirations or ability to rise in the organization. So, how can we tackle these issues that are present in STEM organizations, both for individuals as well as for the organization itself? Community can play a massive role in tackling these issues. But what does community really mean? If we ask people what community means, we get different answers from diverse individuals. And here I'd like to share with you some of the answers we got from people from our community about what it means to them. Let's listen to some of these people.
What community means to me is it's a deliberate set of choices about how we build our relationships. And the thing that Women in Engineering and IT does and is a deliberate commitment by the university and by the people who run it and who are involved in it to build a community that is supportive and is directed towards helping people to succeed in their work and to help them bring their personal passions and interests to what they're doing as well. So thanks very much.
Women in Engineering IT community is a community that seeks to empower all. They work with academics, students, teachers in high school and primary school to unearth their potential in STEM and indeed engineering IT careers. It is important to have these spaces because it creates a hub where we can gather to share ideas and to celebrate each other. It is also a safe space where we can reach out. I enjoy the fact that everyone and every community is celebrated. I have had the privilege of working with and collaborating with the Women Engineering IT community to assist my high school students on their learning journey. As a people, we are built for community, and for me, community means belonging.
I have personally really enjoyed being part of this community. It's very rewarding to hear about people's success stories, and it's helped me to gain in my own personal confidence. And being part of the meetups is really great. And it's always nice to meet new friends.
At this point, I've shared with you what community means to diverse individuals. I'd also like to summarize slightly more formal advantages of community at the workplace for the organization itself. Community spaces or social networks are spaces where networking can take place in a slightly less rigid or structured manner. That means that people can indulge in conversations and interaction without feeling that sense of pressure. And that can mean that they can form relationships, they can form friendships at work, which reduces their sense of isolation. It can mean that they form a support network. It can also mean that they create those important work linkages which help them to perform better. It can also lead to better collaboration. Because now people are talking to each other in a relaxed manner as a conversation, they can exchange views. They don't feel the pressure of making a presentation or proving something or creating a report and sharing that. This is about exchange of views, sharing information, and that can lead to authentic collaboration and creating bonds between people. This is also something that leads to innovation and creation of opportunities. Because people are exchanging views, sometimes they're spitballing. They're coming up with wacky, crazy new ideas without feeling the pressure to justify it to their boss or to an entire meeting room full of people. This is just about talking about new things or fun things with some colleagues who are their friends in a social space over a cup of tea. And this can lead to some new ideas coming out, leading to new products or new services, which can be really important for the firm. It's also a space where informal mentoring takes place, where someone might feel comfortable asking for a little bit of advice about navigating office politics. Another person might feel comfortable giving a little bit of advice or sharing some information on how to achieve a career goal or how to navigate a certain difficult situation. All these things lead to nurturing of talent within the organization in a very organic and a very natural manner, but yet this is quite deliberate because the organization has created the social space where these things can actually happen. So far, I've talked about the importance of community, and you've heard from other individuals about this as well. But how does one go about creating such a community? Well, to begin with, employee resource groups and social networks that exist at most organizations are a very good place to start. Otherwise, it's simple to set up a community and to create it and make it grow. And the two key things to start with, in my opinion, are events around food and culture. Most people like eating, whether they like eating their favorite food or trying new things. And a lot of people like learning about new cultures, or at least like sharing about their own culture. Bringing these two things together into an informal setting can lead to an unmistakable win. So, if you have a simple get together over coffee or over tea, in which there is a cultural celebration, celebrating, say, Chinese New Year or some other festival for a cultural minority, then having authentic food from that culture can be quite an interesting experience. For some people, it will be about trying new food. For others, it will be about learning something new about that particular culture. And for others who are from that minority group, it means that their culture is being recognized, being appreciated, and they are able to share that aspect of themselves with their colleagues. And they then feel, well, a lot more at home and much happier about their working space. The real point behind culture and food is to find common ground and to get people to interact across culture and to enjoy each other's company and presence while at the workplace. For a person who's sharing their culture in this manner, it can mean a lot because they're often not able to do this, and so they don't feel authentic or they feel that they've only brought part of themselves at work. This leads me to the third and fourth points on this slide about fostering a sense of ownership and inviting suggestions. One example that I'll share with you is that my team and I would organize Chinese New Year at the start of the year every year. And we would decorate our space with lanterns and messages in Mandarin and have everything in red, and it was beautiful. We would get authentic Chinese food, and it was so successful that it would become a massive party. Everyone had a wonderful time, whether they were of Chinese descent or not. People enjoyed the food, people enjoyed the interaction. After one such event, a Persian colleague asked me why we didn't celebrate Persian New Year or Nowruz. And I said, why don't you organize it for us? So she and a few others got together to organize Persian New Year for us. They decorated the space, they created the haftsin, and they got wonderful Persian food. As a result of this, people got to try new food, which was Persian. They got to learn about the culture because Sahar gave a little talk about what the haftsin means and what Nowruz signifies. Because of this, people were able to share and learn something new. And for all the people of Persian descent, it meant that their culture was being appreciated and being recognized. The fact that these people came forward themselves as volunteers also showed that it fostered a sense of community ownership amongst them. Now they felt that it was their community, that they could contribute to it, and they could also help shape it, shape how it grew, in which direction it grew. And it was an excellent opportunity to create really deep community engagement. So, the fourth point about inviting suggestions pertains to that. If you ask your community members what they'd like in the community, what sort of events, and in fact invite them to organize these events or to share their own knowledge or ideas, that can really foster that sense of community. It can empower people to engage much more deeply. I'd like you to hear from Sahar herself about why she organized Nowruz and what it meant to her.
And as an Iranian and a member of this community, I had the opportunity to help with organizing Persian New Year, which is one of the most popular one at UTS. And this made me feel more involved in the activities of this community. And, when you are welcomed and feel heard in a community, in your professional environment, it makes you feel more dedicated to your profession, which leads to deeper sense of belonging. And I think developing the sense of belonging and trust in a community is essential for all the international students.
But apart from food and culture, what are the other things that are important when creating community or organizing community events? The last 3 points on this slide pertain to those. These are simple pointers. For example, try to choose times for events that do not come right at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day. So people who have caring responsibilities, whether it's childcare, whether it's looking after an aged relative or someone who's unwell at home or any other caring responsibility, can leave early or can come a little bit late and still be able to participate in this community event. And they don't have to choose between the social event at work and the caring responsibility. A very simple thing to do is to recognize that new people coming to a community event can often feel shy and awkward if they don't know other people. Therefore, have someone be a greeter at the event who welcomes new people, chats with them a little bit, puts them at their ease, and then introduces them to others. This can make a world of difference to the degree of comfort a person feels at a community event. I've personally seen that people who've come to our events, after a couple of times, even if they were shy at first, have felt so comfortable that they began to play host at events later on themselves without even being asked. They were able to share the welcome that they received when they came into the community. A simple thing to do also is to avoid alcohol at community-related events. It's quite possible that there'll be members in the community who don't drink alcohol or are not comfortable around alcohol. So this will put them at ease. Furthermore, organizations may have their own rules and regulations around alcohol consumption on premises, and you would be avoiding all that headache. Finally, any alcohol-related incidents would be avoided completely. These are simple tips to follow, but can be really helpful in creating exciting, wonderful, and engaged community events. So far, I've spoken about what community can do and what it can mean to diverse individuals, and you've heard from some of these people. But can we really talk about community at times of remote and online working? So far, all the community events I've discussed have been about in-person and face-to-face interaction. Yet right now, we're stuck with infinite number of Zoom or WebEx calls and just video conferencing. So what does community mean at times like this? When we asked our community what it felt like to them working from home, this is what they said. Some were quite happy, but many were not. They felt alone, they felt stressed, anxious, and they were overworking. In times like this, they said that our community meant a lot to them, and these are the things that our community stood for to them. So how can one create a community or good community interaction at times of remote working and online working? These are the things that I'm going to share with you next. There are a multitude of online tools that can actually help with interaction and engagement so that the Zoom or video conferencing call does not become a chore and painful. We found that supplementing a video conferencing call with interactive tools like Mentimeter, where you ask people questions and get them to answer in real time, can be quite fun and quite engaging, where people feel that they're able to actually share something with the community that they're talking to, where their ideas are being seen and heard and being respected. Connection to Lucy. Coming up now is a small video clip from a webinar launch of our mentoring program, Lucy, and you will see how we did our first launch online. Right, we have 95 participants today.
That is fantastic.
People, you should know you're beating the last webinar's record. We had 76 last week, and you have just broken that. Fantastic. Good job.
And Arti, can I just say we're at 110 participants, so that's pretty exciting.
This is going through the roof, I'm telling you.
You're excited. Nervous. Yep. I think there might be a few of those. Proud.
Proud.
It's 111 now, Lauren. It's increasing by the minute.
So someone's just joined and is very lost right now. Maybe they slept in a little bit. Oh, it's
Full of optimism.
Lovely. Welcomed. Imposter syndrome. Oh my God. Talk about imposter syndrome. That is so true.
I think we might need to develop like an adjective for how you feel when you're experiencing imposter syndrome.
I think we should do a little training on how to deal with imposter syndrome. It's also good to use facilitation to allow conversations to flow in online events. In face-to-face events or in-person events, it's easier to talk to people because we can read body language cues. This is a little bit more difficult in online conversations. We also don't want multiple people speaking at the same time because it can be quite confusing. Therefore, if we have someone who's facilitating the conversation, it can be helpful. If no one is speaking, having a few icebreakers ready can get the conversation going. It can also be helpful to have a discussion which is being led in a particular direction that's of interest to the entire community. Having a few simple jokes or personal anecdotes which get people engaged and get them to open up and talk about something light and refreshing and fun can be quite good as well. Here are some images from our live web events that we've been holding for our community and that have included their own involvement in creating the events.
Definitely shared ambitions. We're an agile community. We're authentic. We're available to each other. And we are advancing and accelerating each other's careers.
It's also possible to play simple games like charades, which don't involve extra high tech, which can let people relax and have fun. And it can allow them to actually enjoy that time and treat it as something which is not strictly work, but something of a more social nature, even though it is a video conferencing call. We've also found that at times like this, people are feeling upset and stressed, and therefore their well-being is at risk. Many of them are looking at tips for managing their work-life balance and working remotely. So we found that sharing resources on this, or curating existing resources and sharing them, or organizing certain events which are targeted at well-being is also very helpful for the community. It's also important to find the right frequency or number of events to host and the length of events in such a situation. There is no one right answer, and you might find that the needs of the community change over time. So the simplest and best thing to do is to actually ask the community, how often would they like to meet? For how long would they like the event to last? And if they would like the nature of the events to change a little bit. You can use Mentimeter or other polling devices to ask those questions and get those responses. And of course, you can have a conversation where it's possible and get those answers. To conclude, I'd like to say that community is a living, breathing thing. It is at the very heart of an organization. It can lead to the organization flourishing and doing better, and it can really lead to each individual in the organization feeling connected, engaged, and empowered. And I would also like to thank every single individual who contributed to the presentation here today with their videos, and my team who helped put this together. If you'd like to know more about our work, please connect with us digitally. And thank you so very much for joining this presentation. I look forward to your questions and your comments.